Dawn of the Reapers is a Mass Effect-driven mod for Sins of the Solar Empire Rebellion. It is still an alpha, and I believe they actually just started working on it, so everything is not 100% complete at this moment. They're still adding in a couple things. They've actually got a bunch of stuff to add in, so that is what alpha means, if you don't know that. So they're adding in a bunch of stuff. It's not 100% complete, but it's still great. So, if you're like me and you have played both Mass Effect and a space sim before, you were probably wondering if something like this existed. Well, it does, and I can tell you after a few days of playing this mod, it feels exactly like BioWare wanted Mass Effect to feel. What I mean is, when you play against the Reapers, you engage in a Reaper, you engage against a Reaper fleet, and you feel like you're going to lose. Just by looking at their health and how much damage they do, you start to think, this is pointless, not gonna win. But the mod authors did a great job by making this mod actually playable against the Reapers. In Mass Effect 3, they wanted you to feel that you weren't going to win, nothing was going to happen, like the Reapers were just unstoppable. And in this mod, they kind of took that and just dimmed it down just a little bit. So you can play and you can win, but it's still got that same feeling to it. When you see the Reapers travel around in the mod, it's not in huge fleets. Like, if you remember at the end of Mass Effect 3, that huge Reaper fleet, if you don't remember or you just haven't played, I'll refresh your memory really quick. But with all that out of the way, let's cover the Reapers a little bit first. So if you decided if you want to play as or against the Reapers, you're going to want to choose wisely. You choose from either Reaper Harb or Reaper Rava. Now, at first glance, the best I can guess with the names is Reaper Harb is Reaper Harbinger. If you played Mass Effect before, you should remember who Harbinger is. Now, when you choose Reaper Harb, you can only build Harbinger-class ships. These would be the ones that look like giant hands, if you don't remember. In Mass Effect 1, there was a giant ship that was flying off the ground on the first mission, and it looked like a giant hand. The Harbinger-class Reapers are the heavy hitters in Mass Effect. So when you choose Reaper Harb, at the moment you can only build Harbinger-class Reapers, with the exception of the Geth ships. Remember, the Geth are the Reapers' allies in this war, so you will have access to their ships as well as Reaper ships when you're playing as either Reaper Harb or Reaper Rava. But for the moment, you can only build the Geth droid ship. The Geth droid ship is the common ship that Commander Shepard would run into a lot throughout his or her journey throughout the galaxy. So, as of this moment, that's Reaper Harb. All the Reaper ships are going to look like the Harbinger/Sovereign class ship. Plus, you get the Geth droid ship. Remember, this is only an alpha. As for Reaper Rava, if you've played through all the Mass Effects before, you guessed it. It's the Destroyer class Reaper. If you have not played Mass Effect or don't remember, it is the Reaper that Shepard went 1v1 on the Quarian homeworld with. Obviously, it was not a 1v1 though. So, with Reaper Rava, from what I can see, it is almost exactly the same. Now, I only built the Titan for the Reaper Rava, and it looks badass, but other than that, everything looks the same. Titan for the Reaper Harp might be different, but other than that, the ship builds are basically the same for now. There are some small differences, but overall, it's mostly the same. But, like I said, it is still an alpha, so they have a lot of work, and maybe they'll create their own class of Reaper, get some more Reaper ships in there. That's the reason why I didn't play it that much. There was just not that many Reaper ships to choose from, and they were basically the same for each Reaper Rava and Reaper Harb. They were basically the same, so that's why I didn't enjoy or play the Reapers that much. It wasn't that fun. So, maybe they'll get some more ships in there in the full release, or in the next release of the alpha. It'd be nice to see, but other than that, that is the Reapers. So, moving on to the Alliance or Cerberus, which is fine. I would prefer the Alliance, but Cerberus is fine. Anyways, the humans is what I have spent most of my time playing as. So, the humans are a lot different from the Reapers, obviously. Ship classes, we get your capital ships, which would be, as of the alpha release, you have 3 capital ships. You have your Trafalgar, I'm sure I murdered that name, Trafalgar battleship, your Centurion carrier, and my personal favorite, the Adriatic battlecruiser. So obviously each capital ship does different stuff, but the names pretty much sum it up. The Trafalgar battleship has the firepower, and the Adriatic battlecruiser is a support capital ship. And clearly the Centurion carrier has all the fighters and bombers. But all of this means nothing if you don't have an actual fleet to back up the support, and support your heavy hitters. I put a group of capital ships up against, I think, 3 or 4 Reapers, and they got decimated. My fleet got there mid-battle, and by the end of the battle, only 1 out of, I think, 16 capital ships survived. So that's not good, obviously. So you need your fleet. As for the bulk of your fleet, you're gonna have some cruisers, some frigates. Obviously, the frigates are going to sacrifice firepower for speed, and cruisers are going to have, in the middle of speed and firepower, and then firepower is going to be for your capital ships. So for the cruisers, you have your light carrier, which obviously carries more fighters. Then you have your Elbrus cruiser, which is a support repair ship. It also has limited firepower. Now we're moving on to your command cruiser, which is another support ship, which also has limited firepower. And finally, your heavy cruiser, which is something I'm sure you're going to build a lot of. The Waterloo heavy cruiser. It has the firepower and the range. You can either have it bomb a target from long range while your capital ships absorb all the damage, or while your frigates distract them, you can move in close and have it annihilate everything in its path. It's got bombs, or not bombs, but it's got basically torpedoes on it, and then when you get in close range, it has these close range cannons which just continuous fire, which just decimates everything. I think it's like 40 damage per second. And when you've got like 10 of these doing that, that's just a shit ton of damage. And they've got like, I think each ship's got like 4 cannons on it, so it's insane how much damage these things do. But they don't have that much health, so they do die pretty fast when you're going up against a couple of Reapers. So you've got to be smart with it. And that's basically your cruisers. Your frigates are... You don't have the Normandy for the humans, which kind of sucks. I kind of don't like that. The Normandy is for the council, but you've got your support frigates, and then you've got your anti-air frigates, which just basically, those are going to be the miscellaneous ships that you build for filling in spots, basically. You don't want to build all of the same, because that just gets boring. So you just build your frigates. And I don't want to go too far in with the frigates, just because I feel like I've already gone far enough in with every single ship. Named off all the cruisers and all the capital ships, so the frigates I'll leave for you to check out in the mod. But, there's something that you can build, so yeah. And then, obviously, you've got your tech tree. Everything, like I said, it's still an alpha. The tech tree is not 100%, the pictures aren't done, the little descriptions. Everything's sort of like just thrown together really fast. As for the council, obviously the council is a mix of the Quarians, Solarians, and the Turians, and the Asari. So you've got the Asari ships, you've got the Quarian ships, you've got the Solarian and the Turian ships. I just realized how many species end with Ian. You've got the Quarian, Turian, and Solarian. And I think there's a couple more as well. That is very weird. But... the council ships, some of them kind of look like the human ships, so it is like that in Mass Effect. The Turians and the humans have a very similar fleet, but you've got to remember all of their technology is based off of what they found from the Protheans, so a lot of it looks the same. If you don't know that, there's a little pro tip for you right there. That is why most of the stuff looks the same. Not all of it looks the same, though. So you've got your... there's a couple of the capital ships. They've got a lot more capital ships than the humans. They've got the Migrant Fleet giant capital ship. I forgot what it's called, but it's that giant round one. If you remember it from Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, it's the huge one, basically. And I just dropped something, but it's the huge one. And then you've got, some Asari ships that you see from Mass Effect 3 in there. And you've got your Turian ships, which are supposed to be insanely badass. And then... depending on whether you choose Council Paragon or Council Renegade. If you choose Renegade, you've got your... Renegade isn't, like, bad. It's basically a militaristic version of the Council. You've got basically more Turian ships. The Turians are, like, a really military-heavy race. So you've got a Turian Titan, which looks badass. But if you go with the Renegade version... or not the Renegade, the Paragon version of the Council, you've got your... if you remember it from Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 3, you've got that giant, I forgot what it's called too. It's the giant council ship that you see when you first come into orbit in Mass Effect, when you first come into the Citadel orbit in Mass Effect 1. And then it's in a couple of scenes from Mass Effect 3. But you've got that ship as your Titan for that. You've also got the Normandy as well for the council, so that's pretty cool. Overall, I imagine you're probably going to want to play as the humans, mainly because I don't know why, I just find them the most fun out of the Council and the Reapers. The humans, for me, seem to be the most fun. The Council is basically the same as the humans. You've basically got the same ships, like I said, except for the exception of the couple alien ships, but most of them, like the Turian ships, look the same. But other than that, the alien ships obviously look different. So, me personally, I choose between the Council and the humans each time. I rarely play as the Reapers. But this is an alpha, so they might change things up, add some more Reaper ships, maybe add some more human ships, change the humans up a little bit, change the Council up a little bit. I feel like they could do just a shit ton of stuff with this mod, and I feel like it's gonna be an awesome release when the full mod gets released, not just the alpha. So, other than that, though, we don't really do outros here. But if you like the video, go and leave a like. If you dislike the video, go and leave a dislike. But that is Mod Jumble, and we will see you in the next one.